Shalom, everybody. Shalom from those who are joining in Israel and for those who are here in Kenya. Good morning, everybody. I hope that you have all been well this morning, and we are very, very excited to have you here in this webinar. Just a few points to note before we start. Please put your microphones off so that we can get to engage and we can hear from the panelists. And
Stephen, you are muted.
Sorry. So we will be having a Q&A at the end where we will all get to participate, and we'll get your views and your questions. So feel free to participate. But to start us off, I would like to acknowledge our panelists, and I would like to read a few, the sub-themes of this webinar. Of course, the theme is on innovative and sustainable green programs for schools in Kenya. And we are so privileged to have Paul Moody, who is a Deputy Director of the Ministry of Energy, and he will be touching on the role of the government and industry players in ensuring increased uptake of sustainable green programs for schools in Kenya. He will also be telling us the policies and the plans that the government has been promoting or been putting forward to promote the uptake of green energy, sustainability learning in schools, and so on. And then we are also privileged to have Dr. Oli Ronen from the University of Tel Aviv, and she will be sharing about the circular economy, but also highlighting the strategies for solving development challenges through technology-based sustainable green programs. And then in the panelists, we also have Mr. Omri Cohen, who is a CEO of Keilot, and he will be highlighting the work that Keilot is doing in terms of ensuring that green energy technologies reach the off-grid communities, schools, as well as families and homes. And then we'll also have Jessica Schoenberg, also who is from the Tel Aviv University, but also is a community developer and on sustainable development in Africa and in the Middle East. And she will be sharing on the impact and benefits of project-based learning and green innovative programs for schools. Also, we have Irit Lador also talking on those points. She will be sharing on of course, project-based learning, education for sustainable development. And she is the Director for Sustainable Development, Environment and Social Change. And then Sharon, my colleague, will also be sharing and highlighting the success stories of this program that we have been running for schools. She will be highlighting the success stories of the schools that we have worked in this past few months. And of course, we also have the privilege to have Mr. Ken Waititu, who is basically the head of business development at Rafiki Bank, and he will be sharing about how banks and how financial institutions can help to finance green energy. And also myself, I'll be sharing about the economic side of it, which is basically converting expenses into long-term investments. So welcome everybody. We are so delighted to have you here. We acknowledge all the people here from the private sector, from the government and public institutions, from universities, and also just to mention those of us who are also working in the NGO world and development on development issues. So welcome. To start us off, I would like to welcome Mr. Paul Moody, who is the Deputy Director of the Ministry of Energy. And Karibu Sana, welcome sir, and we are ready to hear from you.
Thank you very much, and good morning to everyone. It's a excellent, and let me just kick it off by indicating what the broader policy of government and the role of the Ministry of Energy in this very particular space. The Ministry of Energy has a very critical role of providing policy and also doing, and thirdly, to provide oversight for the institutions that work within the sector. Now, having said that, the next thing is just to indicate that the subject matter we are discussing here, which is to do with the sustainable development, I need to point out that our Kenyan Constitution, Article 10, has clearly embraced the principle of sustainable development as part of the national values. And so as we speak about sustainable development goals through sustainable experiential learning, then it is very well anchored into our Constitution. Secondly, many statutes which are within different sectors have also addressed in different ways sustainable development. But Kenya has chosen a low carbon development path, and it is through this low carbon development path that a number of legislations have been done. And I'm talking about the Energy Act of 2019, the National Energy Policy of 2018. And then, of course, we have the Climate Change Act of 2016, which all speak about the need to ensure that sustainable development is ensured as part of the global commitments under the 2030 agenda. Now, coming closer home, what we've done as a ministry, first of all, we developed what we call the Sustainable Energy for All Action Agenda. And this agenda then specifies some of the interventions which the government would like to see implemented. And these, of course, will cascade to schools because policies are reaching everywhere. And so in this Sustainable Action Agenda, which was rolled out in 2016, a framework for sustainable development was prepared. And in this framework, a number of things, including universal access to modern energy, which is part of SDG 7. And we are talking about SDGs, and so SDG 7 is very clear that we need to ensure that there's universal access to modern energy. So to indicate that in our policy frameworks, we have also developed strategies that are enabling us to implement the policies. And so we have a bioenergy strategy that was rolled out in 2020. And this strategy then speaks about critical issues, including the cooking aspect, where, of course, schools are involved in both cooking, lighting, and other productive energy uses. Now, in doing this, what has the ministry been doing? We have been promoting on-farm tree growing, and this on-farm tree growing also targets schools because it is in the interest of the environment that we also ensure fieldwood supply does not adversely impact on the environmental integrity. And so we have also developed the nexus between energy sector and education sector. And because this is a subject of our discussion this morning. And in this, we envisage that provision of energy services enables schools to improve educational services. And this also is critical when you think of the lighting and the cooking aspects, which we have been promoting in schools, including schools that have boarding facilities where they have to do cooking. We speak about the improved institutional stoves. And these stoves are efficient. They are able to reduce the consumption of wood. And this is some of the areas in which then we are able to articulate the concerns of government for our children, including how do culture of knowledge of sustainability as a principle and as a concept. And this is where we are saying we must start at the very early stage in development, so that young people are growing with that culture that our lives on earth is dependent on our commitment to sustainable development, to ensure that what we have today is also available for the generations that are coming. And indeed, that is what constitutes the Sustainable Development Principle. Now, let me come closer home. In 2019, some of you may know we had what we call the high-level dialogue on energy, which was a global event, but Kenya was a champion on energy access. And being a champion of energy access, we focused on cooking. And that is where I want to zero in to give you an indication of what we envisage. We prepared what we call an energy compact for cooking. And this compact has one critical thing, that we need to provide an enabling policy environment for access to clean air. Now, one of the interventions proposed in this compact is that we intend to transition schools from the use of solid biomass fuels to cleaner forms of cooking. So the cleaner cooking solutions by 2025. We've already given ourselves a target. And very soon we are going to be rolling out a country, what we call a national clean cooking action plan. And this clean cooking action plan has that component of schools and other public institutions. So in that sense, we are intending that public schools, and in fact all schools, in fact we are talking about communal institutions, are transitioned away from the continued use of solid biomass, which has adverse, of course, has adverse impacts on health and environment. And so we think that by making this intervention, and we are going to be partnering with the financial institutions and development partners to ensure we can deliver on the transition to cleaner cooking. So as we do that, we are also, of course, conscious that we have an electrification strategy that envisages that we shall achieve 100% coverage of access to electricity. Indeed, this was supposed to have been in 2022, but because of the COVID pandemic, we were not able to carry on the programs. So this has been delayed, but we are on course to get every Kenyan household, institutions, and everyone access electricity. And these are the kind of policy implications that are the coding part. So in this way, what is it that we need to do? We need to create awareness. We need to engage in partnerships. We need to work and collaborate with others who are in that space. And so we want to give our commitment that in this initiative of the Keilot program, we'll be happy to partner and support and do whatever would be possible for us to do. With those few remarks, I want to hold it there and look forward to a fruitful engagement and discussions in this webinar. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, sir. We are so delighted to hear that the plans that the government has towards promoting green energy. And one of the things that you did mention, of course, was the energy compact strategy that is aimed at promoting clean cooking, and also including, bridging the gap between education and energy, which of course will be also the highlight of this webinar. So now I'd like to welcome Mr. Omri Cohen, who is the CEO of Keilot, to come and also give his submission. Welcome, Omri.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me well? Great. Can you guys put the presentation, please? Okay, I want to start by congratulating all of you people who have been behind this webinar, and to tell you how excited I am, as this is the first webinar that we are having. We hope to have this webinar every month or every 2 months to update and grow. I've been in Kenya for a very long time, and this is for me an exciting moment. As Stephen mentioned, I'm the CEO of Keilot. Keilot is actually playing a very significant role in this webinar as the implementing platform, as the integration platform of the program, together with the team from the Tel Aviv University, who is going to talk a bit later. Keilot has been in the country for the last, I would say, 1.5 years, operating and growing its business. Keilot is actually an Israeli Kenyan company, and since 2020, though we did have COVID, I'd say, challenges, we've been helping more than 300 families and organizations in getting what we call our green technologies that have been researched and developed in the country, in the state of Israel. The initiative of Keilot is actually to bring these technologies to Kenya as a hub, but from Kenya to go to the rest of the world. We want to be an innovation hub for green technologies in this continent, but we decided to start from Kenya. I've been privileged to be in Kenya for the last almost 15 years, and this is my home. We've managed to bring solutions to farmers, to organizations, mainly in off-grid remote locations, and also focus, as Mr. Mbuthi from the Ministry of Energy mentioned, exactly on clean cooking and clean power to households and now also to schools. Our focus is on water purification and agriculture solutions, and as well on energy conversions, clean cooking, and any other requirements that come from farmers in the sense of needs that are currently not there. So basically what we usually do, we listen to farmers, we listen to schools, we listen to organizations, and we actually develop clean tech solutions for them if we don't have already the needs available in country. On the school sector, this is a program that has been built last year with great effort from many people. Some of them are on this call, on this webinar, and we'll speak later, like Jessica and Irit, and other good friends of ours that have been spending time here in the schools, understanding the real needs of the schools. And for me to explain you how important this is, I want to give you an example from a meeting that we have had yesterday with one of the schools in that is based in Limuru, that is currently paying almost 111,000 shillings a month on charcoals, on fertilizer, and on power bills. And we have managed to give this school a solution that will convert his operational costs to clean environmental solutions. But not only does he convert it to much healthier solutions, but also saves roughly 40,000 shillings in the first 36 months of the program, and then saves the rest in the rest of the for the rest of the years. So first 3 years, 36 months, 40,000 shillings a month immediately, and then from months 37 onwards, 111,000 shillings a month. This is a huge difference, a huge change, a huge advantage of the school, discussing only the immediate costs of operation. That is without taking into consideration the rest of the advantages of using clean power and clean cooking. So I think this would be an amazing case study to understand how important it is for us, as Mr. Moody mentioned, to reach any public school and any private school in the country in order to help them with this conversion and with this program that you're going to hear about. Running through the slide that I'm presenting to you. So number one, this is together with the University of Tel Aviv, we're talking about a full program of agri-studies for the teachers and for the students. We're talking about appraising and bringing the school to be a communal, innovative hub for clean tech. That means that the school itself will actually promote the program and promote the idea of clean energy and renewable energy, not only within the school, but also to the rest of the community around it. A solution for self-sustainable and high nutritional food supply. This is an immediate solution for food security. We want the schools to actually grow their own food. We want the schools to even sell food, that they access food that they generate. For now, they're buying food. They're spending a lot of money on buying the food, which they can grow themselves. Utilization of our special biofertilizer on the various crops, which is part of the program. Immediate reduction of the carbon footprint of the schools. We've been in various schools in various areas, and the amount of smoke or the black walls that you see around you is just horrendous. I mean, the amount of smoke that the people who are cooking are inhaling is just something that has to stop immediately. And then, of course, there's other solutions that are relevant for schools, which is the clean cooking, the clean power, the water consumption. All of this is part of our program that we offer them. We offer them a conversion of operational costs to an investment cost. That means that within 3 years, with our financing, they will complete the payment of the program, and they will start 100% saving, with an immediate cost saving in most of the cases that we can offer when they actually start the program for the first 36 months. I honestly think this is something that we should all promote. We are currently the platform that in the country that manages it, and we hope to hear from you and to work together with you in partnership in order to grow this initiative and reach as many schools as we can in the shortest time possible. I want to thank you again, and over to you, Stephen.
Thank you so much, Omri. You have highlighted key points as to do with promoting adoption of green energy in schools, and we hope, of course, we will have a Q&A at the end. Just to repeat that you can write your questions in the chats, or you can write them, jot them down somewhere, and then we'll be happy to give you a session to just ask questions. So now I would like to invite Dr. Oli. Dr. Oli is the head of Urban Innovation and Sustainable Lab at Tel Aviv University, and she will be speaking on sustainable circular economy. So Dr. Oli, Bakesha, welcome.
Thank you, Toda. Thank you very much. Can you hear me well?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, wonderful. And I will see in a second if you can also see the presentation. Can you?
Yes, we can see.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'm very happy to be here with you. Unlike Omri, I can't boast that I've spent the last 15 years, or actually even one day in Kenya. So I'm going to concentrate on insights from Tel Aviv, which I hope will be beneficial to you, and I'm delighted to share them. I'm from the environmental department at Tel Aviv University, but actually I have to admit that my engagement mostly is within local authorities and municipalities as a promoter and a nudger of sustainability for the last 20 years. And also I do have research, some research activity, which I will also share with you and tell you about it in the very short time that I have. So I really thought what would be interesting to you from our experience here that I could share, and I will concentrate stemming directly from Omri's presentation on focusing on the ability of schools to be communal innovation hubs for green clean tech. I think that's in a way what we are at the Porter School. So I'd like to tell you how that evolved, and then also share some of our insights, which can be summarized into 6 main principles for local sustainable prosperity. And we will, and we'll begin with the first principle. It's a principle that I borrowed from, you probably all know it, if you build it, they will come, but the idea, the concept that if you create and substantialize your vision, then it will be visible and engaging. And then that can also create an environment that promotes local sustainable economy, circular economy, which we will touch on, with the understanding that is the basis of sustainability, that we all live in an ecological web, a natural web, and we have to sustain and maintain it. And that we're all together in this enterprise, and we need to make sure that no one is left behind. So I'll begin with the story of the Porter School. About 15 years ago, this was what is now where I'm actually sitting, and this was just actually a parking lot outside the eastern part of the university, overlooking the main high road to Tel Aviv. And through the vision of many people, some of them from the university, some of them actually from abroad, from the United Kingdom, Dame Shirley Porter, who is the philanthropist who came with a vision of creating a hub for sustainability studies in Israel and for innovative clean tech. And this is, and she came not only with a vision, but with the understanding that if you want to push something forward, you have to make it visible. And in her words, you have to build a building. So everybody will see it, and then they will come. And this is the beginning stages of building the building. And this is the end product where we're sitting now. This is the first lead platinum building in the whole Middle East. As you can see, it is very impressive. It overlooks the highway. It is visible from everywhere. And this is where the Department for Environmental Studies and the Porter School for the Environment sits and researches. There are labs here, there are classrooms here, and naturally offices, but we also have a demonstration. This is also a demonstration site. These, as you can see, these are ecological pools. We collect all the water from all the sanitary system and purify it and reuse it for the garden surrounding the building. all the vegetation here is local natural vegetation. We obviously produce all our energy from solar tubes, which you can see here. Just a second. These are the solar tubes. This is the green eco wall that produces the whole energy for the building. And as you can see, we also have a green roof that is not yet producing any substantial food products, but it is essentially a productive area that can be used to produce food, vegetables. So the idea that is behind this building is that if you substantiate a concept and you make it engaging, then the community will follow. And if the community follows, then you can create the environment that can teach and connect everybody to this key concept of sustainability, which is local and which is communal. So for the first three principles, the first one is the centralizing and visualizing the concept. The second one is making it circular and communal. And the third one is emphasizing on local production and local economy. And in order to better understand this, I'd like to share with you research that we did with the municipality of Tel Aviv on the ecological footprint of Tel Aviv. And obviously, I assume you're aware of the concept of the ecological footprint, transferring the usage of ecological resources into area. And we calculated the usage of Tel Aviv of natural resources, natural renewable resources, in order to produce its lifestyle and its level of economy. And as you can see, the main parameter of the ecological footprint of Tel Aviv is actually food, because most of the food in Israel and in Tel Aviv is imported from other places around the world. And within the ecological footprint of the food is also the footprint of the energy that's invested in the production of the food. So we have the food as the first parameter of the ecological impact of Tel Aviv's lifestyle, followed obviously by electricity, material consumption and waste, transportation. And then, as you can see, the huge difference between the area that's needed to supply the resources and the actual area of the city itself. And just to understand these numbers, the average ecological footprint per capita of the world is 3.3 hectares, while Tel Aviv's is 5.5, and the ecological availability is 1.6. So you could actually say that if everybody in the world lived according to the Tel Aviv lifestyles, we would need 2.5 planets to supply the resources. So we can see from these figures that obviously we need to change our mode of production and concentrate more and more on local production, even in Tel Aviv and obviously around the world. And this is also something that you're contending with. And this idea, this concept was translated by another researcher, Girardot, into a model, transitioning from the model of the agropolis, the traditional city that is surrounded by its production areas, and its development is completely based on its ability to reach the product that it needs. But nowadays, we've transitioned into a different model of production, and this model is completely based on fossil fuels. It's these fossil fuels that enable us to reach all the resources we need. But our cities and our communities have become petropolises. They're completely reliant on fuel. And we need to transition to a different way of doing things, to a circular and renewable way of doing things. And this model, they named this model the ecopolis. I'm sorry, we seem to have some technical problem. So let me just go offline for a second and I'll see what I can do with it.
Okay, so up to that point, I think if we will take anything, I mean, the point that I've taken is that if you substantiate a concept, if you make it, if you build it locally, then community will follow and they will own it. So for me, that's a takeaway, and I hope it is for you too. Before we get back to Dr. Oli, I would like to welcome Jessica Schoenberg. Jessica Schoenberg is the community developer and sustainable development director in Africa and Middle East. And just to let you know that she's also the founder of the program that we are currently running at Keilot, Kenya. So welcome, Jessica. We are so very happy that you could join us today. Karibu sana.
Good morning, everybody. And I'm delighted to be here with all of you. I also want to welcome Mr. Paul Mbuti, Deputy Director, and Dr. Orly Ronen. I'm not sure if she finished her presentation or maybe she can continue later. And Mr. Ken Watitu from Bank, and all my colleagues and all of the participants. I think we are doing something very unique, which I would like to take us straight. Let's see if you can see my presentation. Can you all see it?
Yes, we can.
Amazing. So just dive in directly to the action model that we developed at Tel Aviv University together with Keilot, promoting self-sufficient, sustainable schools, where we are integrating an approach of bottom up, but also up to bottom. And we can definitely see it right now with the participation of different institutions, governmental units, and private sector. But at the end of the day, the core of this project is definitely the community engagement and the community leadership in the process, where we envision the integration of green technologies based on education for sustainable development and experiential education as the motor to actually create change. So the foundation of this model is based on community resilience and how the community can manage and adapt and mitigate, from one side, climate change effects, and at the same time deal with human-man produced hazards to the environment, and of course development needs, as we are all connecting them to the SDGs. And our model at the end of the day will touch upon all of the SDGs related to water and to energy and to waste management and to food security, and of course to all of that connecting to social models. In order to establish a very strong, solid mechanism, we have to consider the local leadership, which is involved in promoting these processes. And based on social cohesion approach, where all the community is involved, and later on I will describe how the school is taking a major role in in innovating and being the pioneer in this kind of approach, which is a community-led approach for development. And the governance of one side managing the local resources, understanding and analyzing the actual needs in order to make the best and most suitable decisions in order to acquire the right and needed competencies for solving development, social, and humanitarian challenges that we're facing also in the world, and not only in Africa, but of course, in certain countries where those problems are major challenges that we need to address. And resources, how can we also manage the actual resources? How can we mitigate the deterioration of the water from the aquifer and desalination water and wastewater and the resources of energy that was mentioned prior to my presentation? So having all of this in mind, the bottom-up approach is the key for development. And I would like to address the water, energy, and food nexus, because at the end of the day, we're talking about a comprehensive approach where we are looking at all those developmental challenges and their effect on the local communities, in this case, also on schools and on school enrollment and on the quality and nutrition of food that students and the educational staff can get and produce and access. And also, of course, we're talking about access to clean water and for production of food and renewable energy and clean energy for heating and for cooking. So the nexus of all of that is the core of the project, where we see in an holistic way how we need to address those challenges. And why in schools? Because beside the fact that we understand the major role the schools are playing in the development of societies and countries, bringing innovation, imparting from a point of view where the students are the generation of those societies, is also playing a role of being a global actor for the communities. And I'm basing on the open system approach, where we understand that schools really are playing a role of promoting change, innovation, technology, also for the rest of units of the community that are completely interconnected and interrelated to the school. So with that in mind, we design a model which is a off-grid, decentralized, and robust model, which could be replicated in many ways and also in different schools. And it's based on local community-led action, where the local community is learning and connecting to these green technologies. It's not just a matter of inserting a technology, but it's rather how all the ecosystem is ready to manage and to promote and also to learn how to use the technologies and take that knowledge and replicate it in also other areas of expertise and other areas of needs. Trying to manage the off-grid, which are less expensive, they are easier to manage, they are well understood by local communities. And that's something that we are envisioning in these following principles of the model, where the environmental focus, as I mentioned, is the core of the model and is based on education and project development, providing tools and competencies for the local school communities, educational communities, in how to design their own projects and how to tailor the outputs of the technologies. And we'll talk specifically about the home biogas, because that was a proof of concept that we developed in Kenya. But again, it could be implemented in different technologies as well. When we think about food security and food production and resource optimization, we want to make sure that the local communities understand how to optimize the resources, how to use them in the best manner, and at the same time to increase and maximize the quality and the quantity of the food produced. Innovation, entrepreneurship, and circular economy, which Dr. Orly mentioned prior to my presentation, is also something that we consider. So quickly, I will give you the overview on the components, the pillars of our model. For one side, we have the farm experimentation and technological management, where together with the schools, we tailored a protocol on how to manage a farm, how to grow, how to use the resources, how to apply the organic fertilizer, which is the output from the home biogas technology beside the clean or healthier gas that it produces, how to conduct data collection and research led by students and led by the educational staff in order to design a recipe which is the most suitable for that specific school for food production. And this is, of course, touching upon many things that Omri mentioned about saving on investment of funds for purchasing food, having control on how we're growing our food, how can we maximize the nutritious food that we are growing, and that's, of course, led by a really deep understanding by the community. We have the institutional aspect. In order to make sure that this is a self-sustained model, we have to establish a locally managed structure with working groups led also by the educational staff and students in order to promote the social cohesion, a structure that can manage the program, continue it in the long run, incorporate other classrooms, connect with the local communities, and that's part of the training and the knowledge that we provide, and we work together and facilitate this process with the local schools. I'm going to just mention this, that we also consider a platform of a laboratory, experiential laboratory for the design of solutions, of grid small solutions by the students, where they can use this knowledge on usage of technologies, understanding of content, perspectives, and a community action in order to also design and solve other internal problems they have in the community. And that's done by the establishment of a hub for small off-grid solutions, which my colleague will describe with much more detail on how it was done actually with teachers and educational staff. And I will mention the teacher training and curriculum development, because everything was designed from one side in a complementary curriculum. We're not coming with completely an external curriculum, but rather we are incorporating into the existing national curriculum certain units that are designed or are facilitated together with the local staff in the areas of fields of technologies, climate change adaptation, resource management, food production, in order to make sure that there is an answer to the SDGs and to sustainable development inside the school curriculum programs. And in order to do so, we conducted training and workshops as part of the model to support the process inside of the school communities. So now we are going to continue with my colleague, which will explain in much a deep dive how this process was done with the teachers and with the local staff in terms of the educational for sustainable development approach and project-based learning methodology. So, Irit, sorry.
I would kindly like to request that we have a special request, because one of the speakers requested to speak earlier because of some commitment. So I'm not really sure if it will be, I really hate to break the flow because we have a really good cohesion here. But we have Mr. Ken from Rafiki Bank who would like to speak now, and then Irit can pick up after, if that's fine. Okay, so Ken, of course, as I had mentioned earlier, is the head of business development, Rafiki Bank, and he will be speaking on financial products that are suitable for financing green energy, especially for schools. Karibu sana, Ken. Welcome. Yes,
I also don't know who do we have in the meeting for protocols. I know the CEO, Mr. Omri Cohen, and I also know the chairman, Dorit. So we to the members present, and I can also see that we have a good participation of almost 45 members. Good morning to all. I would wish to say that, first of all, we are very excited to partner with Keilot and make sure that we are also coming in to cover the gap and the space in financial inclusivity, and also making enablers so that we can help institutions, especially schools, which is a key target area to access financial. Okay, sorry. Hello. Hello. Sorry, I think
we can hear you, Ken. Please continue.
There's an interruption. Something dropped. So we've come up with these MOU first of all to take care, and our brief understanding on who Keilot is. It's actually an Israeli-based clean tech company whose main aim is providing clean off-grid energy using Israeli technology to institutions, schools, and individuals in Africa, with main products being modern home biogas, water purifier, and milking machines. So those are actually the product aspects that we've come around and understood, and we've come around and said we are happy to look at households, institutions, and schools, and these are the products that we are actually going to offer in the market. We are lending to these target markets through different products that we have on board. One is for any loans that they are going to take below 300,000, we are charging an interest rate of 26%. This is on flat rate. Remember, in this place, we are actually taking securities of home charters and personal guarantees so that we're in a position to mitigate the issue of security levels for that. And we are very flexible because as a microfinance, we're in a position to listen to our customers on individual basis. We can custom make solutions. We can also be innovative to any challenging situations that we actually fall on the ground. And how we've made sure that we can take care of the specialized needs is to make sure that we've teamed up our salespeople together with the Keilot salespeople. So we make sure that whereby there's a salesperson from Keilot who is going to briefly explain to you about the modern biogas. Then if you want to understand how now that will fit in a bank, then we also have resources. Rafiki is currently celebrating 11 years in the industry. We have 19 branches across Kenya with representation in 11 counties. And we actually have representation all the way from the coast region up to Rift and Western. So the other product that I'll basically unpack is for our funding up to 2 million. This is from 300,000 to 2 million. Our interest rate here is 22% on reducing balance. And we can also have individuals who may actually want to buy Keilot products that are within this range come to us for financing. I'll also give you the maximum financing that we basically do of the invoice after I'm done with the last bit. And this is where the catchment area is. For now, because we want to take care of institutions and we understand the unique setup that they normally fit in, and it's basically a value-added advantage, especially when institutions come around and access green energy. Remember, that is a place that cost-cutting will be very necessary. Using also the current off-grid energy system is also something that most industries are basically pushing because of the need to have a sustainable, healthy population that they're actually addressing. Our school is one of the places that you actually get a huge population being the students. So having said that, we have come with a more custom-made solution for the school, and we're actually lending at a reducing balance of 22%. Then we also have an advantage of a collateralization. We are not asking for security on these aspects so that we can make the applications to be much faster and quite fluid. Then we are also willing to have a discussion with the key stakeholders who are based in the decision making of a facility structure. With that now, and what we are basically looking at is to make sure that we are enabling institutions to move from the expensive and traditional models of energy and also water purifier services, and also the solar panels and all that, so that we can come in and give them a solution. They can have a one-time solution that is going to take care for them years and minutes. Electricity bills will still be there, but now when you actually move to the biogas kind of system that can actually give you a different source of energy, definitely you actually diversify. So we are financing as an institution a maximum of 70% from that, and our turnaround time is basically 3 days from the point of application. 3 days, and I actually give this commitment because I as Ken, I'm involved in the journey. I'm basically looking at the pipelines. I'm also looking at the cases. So I'll even have my number here. My number is 0721 108 923 in case we may have any potential customers who may want to have side discussion towards the success of these partnerships, we are actually ready, willing, and able to support. Back to you. I don't know if I've covered ground sufficiently. Please give me any questions that may actually come around. Yeah.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, you have been quite elaborate on the financial offerings that are there for financing green energy, and this is key because of course we do want also to just ensure that communities do get access to these technologies, and which will help promote sustainability. Now, back to the conversation on the ecological footprint concept that Dr. Oli was talking about, and then after that we'll have Irit Lador continue. Of course, Irit is the co-founder of the model together with Jess, and she will continue after Dr. Oli. So Dr. Oli, please continue. Dr. Oli, are you there? So, Irit, perhaps you can pick up, and then after you can have Dr. Oli when she's ready.
Thank you, Stephen. Hi, good morning. My name is Irit Lador, and I am happy to be here and excited to share with you some ideas from our model. Thank you all, Keilot, for having me. I will talk about our work methodology and how our model empowers young people to lead change for the well-being of their friends, their communities, and the planet. We are facing unprecedented social, environmental, economic challenges that range from climate change and the depletion of natural resources to food insecurity and poverty. Dealing with sustainable development challenges requires courageous political leadership, developing green technological solutions, and local activism. But what is the role of education in the sustainable development agenda? How can the potential of youth to drive green technologies innovation be leveraged? Did you know that children entering the educational system today will have jobs that have not yet been created? They will use technologies that have not yet been invented, and they will have to solve problems that have not yet been anticipated. What skills children today should acquire in order to navigate through such uncertainty? Education is at the heart of our efforts, both to adapt to our rapid changing world and to transform our culture to a more sustainable one. Education for Sustainable Development, in short ESD, is a creative education that can address the current and future global challenges by creating more sustainable and resilient societies. There is a broad consensus that pedagogy for sustainability as an holistic and transformational education requires a shift towards active, participative, and experiential learning methods that engage the learner and make a real difference to their understanding, thinking, and ability to act. The Kenya constitutions of 2010 prioritize sustainable development as a national goal and adopted ESD. Yet an official document by the Education Ministry of Kenya lists several challenges identified in ESD implementation. Among them, that the concept of ESD is not fully understood, that there is limited resources for ESD implementation, and that there is no adequate partnership among ESD stakeholders. So when we designed our model for self-sufficient sustainable schools, we tried to fill those implementation gaps. We have piloted our model in Kenya a few months ago. It was a great experience, using the home biogas system as a green technology. I will share with you some of our experiences from the pilot through the principles of the educational program. Here you can see the main principles. As Jess explained, the whole model is based on participatory approach. In our pilot, we use the whole school community approach, which includes school governance, teaching content and methodology, campus and facilities management, as well as cooperation with partners and broader community. The active involvement of all school stakeholders is key to a successful implementation of our model. Board meetings was one of the tools that we used in order to implement this approach. Since we want to equip young people with the competencies needed to become change makers and lead systematic innovation in a rapid changing environment, we need to help students develop skills through system thinking and challenge-based learning. Challenge-based learning is an innovative, collaborative learning hands-on methodology that engages students to resolve real-world challenges. The challenge learning framework is divided into 3 interconnected phases: engage, investigate, and act. Challenge-based learning can be implemented in a variety of ways, which shows the design thinking. Design thinking is a powerful process of problem solving that begins with understanding the perspective and needs of the person and community which face a certain challenge. The design thinking process promotes curiosity, empathy, exploration of the human environmental needs through research and experimentation, while promoting growth mindset and the 21st century skills like collaborative learning and critical thinking. This is a great innovation process that can promote sustainable solutions for local challenges. And what is the role of the green technologies? The innovative utilization of green technologies and green economy may become a major bridge to link societies and its sustainable challenges. Schools are great places for the implementation of green technologies. First, green technologies can minimize environmental footprints, provide a healthier environment, improve quality of life, and save money. Second, green technologies can be a driver of ESD. It can turn the learning process into a more practical one. Green technologies can be used as learning environment in sustainability, science, and technology. But most of all, green technologies are an inspiration for how humans can thrive without harming their environment and conserve the planet's resources for future generations. One of the most important elements in our model is the training of the school teachers and the school staff. The training included several experimental workshops in order for the teachers to experience the learning process that their students will experience with them during the project. You can see in the pictures the teachers experimenting challenge-based learning and design thinking process. The workshop was very meaningful for the teachers in understanding the essence of ESD. It encouraged them to step out of their comfort zone and try things out for the first time. This form of learning allowed them to interact and to be more engaged. They found out that they are creative and innovative. They discovered new skills that they didn't know they have. It was uplifting and fun for Jess and I now, but also for the teachers. At the end of the workshops, teachers said that this methodology can help them to apply what they've learned in a classroom settings with a sense of confidence and faith in the process. The teacher training process is accompanied by a teacher guide, consists of introduction to the Sustainable Development Goals and the home biogas system. It has 3 days workshop program, detailed at the level of lessons plans and guidance on how to establish an innovation hub for sustainability through design thinking process. Des and I knew that we know that change is not a simple matter, especially in a complex systems such as educational systems. That is why it was important for us to establish a support package for schools who implement the model. The long-term support is given by the talented school coordinators, Sharon and Stephen, which with us today here. So to sum up, schools have a central role to play in helping children to develop curiosity, imagination, and resilience. They should teach them to respect and appreciate the ideas, perspective, and values of others, and provide them opportunities to experience teamwork, collaborative problem solving. Schools have a central role in the transition to more sustainable lifestyles, green economies, and sustainable climate resilient societies. Schools have a central role in offering students the tools and skills they need to become change makers. Thank you.
Wow, amazing. Thank you so very much, Edith. And just to mention that the objectives of the program that you have just mentioned and that we have participated in are very much in line with the current CBC competence-based curriculum model that the Ministry of Education is currently promoting in Kenya, and that is looking to fully roll out. So now I would just like to ask if we have Dr. Oli online, just pick up the conversation. Dr. Oli. And I would also like to acknowledge those of us that are joining from the ministry sector, from the education sector. We have, of course, with us Daraja, who is our very our wonderful partner, and we have worked with them in the schools. Those of us who are also coming from different schools, you're very, very much welcome. You are the focus, indeed, of our webinar today. I'm going to be presenting now on the concept of converting operating costs of OPEX to CAPEX, that is capital expenditure. And I'd just like also to mention in passing that an anonymous person once said, I don't know the name, maybe you know it, they said that by re-establishing the connection between schools and communities, we believe more effective schools and healthier neighborhoods will be created. So that quote probably summarizes to the point where we are so far. So I'll share my presentation now. Okay, so now when we are talking about conversion of OPEX to CAPEX, OPEX being operating cost to capital expenditure, the concept here is that when a school adopts renewable energy, green energy, that's to do with solar, with biogas, with other technologies such as water purification and so on and so forth, that there is an opportunity here, a financial opportunity that is presented, has to do with eliminating recurring costs, monthly costs, and converting that with introducing technology, which is first of all an asset. And as we know from the business sector or from the business concept, that an asset has the ability to raise the value of the school, but also in the long term, we want also to introduce a technology that will help the school to reduce its cost and then focus the costs on more productive investments. So now, let's look at the challenges and opportunities for schools. So the schools that we visited, and here the analysis is on 30 schools that we have so far visited. That the challenge number one is underutilization of resources such as land. And here we see that the schools that we have worked so far have some land, let's say 3 acres to even 40 acres of land. And this land, of course, can be used to produce food for the school. And in some aspects where you have a scalability, then the food can also be sold to the community. So we noticed this challenge, and the opportunity here is that we can build an organizational structure for a management framework. For example, building a protocol for farm management. The second challenge is wood charcoal cooking. And of course, Mr. Paul Moody did mention about the agenda of the government in promoting clean cooking. And of course, here at Keilot, we also do that. So wood charcoal cooking, of course, it affects the health of those who are cooking, and also, of course, affects our climate, leads to climate change modalities. So here we have the opportunity of introducing clean cooking. The other challenge that we have is there is little training on education for sustainability. And just to mention that also, it did mention that the challenge for ESD is that ESD, or Education for Sustainable Development, is not fully understood in schools, even though the government has been trying to promote it. So the opportunity here is that schools are a central point for change, and there's an opportunity to create leaders, both teachers and students who can promote sustainability in the school, but also in the community. The other aspect, of course, has to do with the cooking. It leads to deforestation and cutting down, of course, of trees. And the opportunity here is that we can promote green growth and introduce clean cooking in schools. And then lastly, there's a lack of community engagement. That is the framework or the concept. Rather, we are not very coordinated in terms of managing resources within the school and within the community. So the opportunity here is community collaboration and partnership, and building organization and local structures. So let's look at a specific case, and this graph or chart is just to give us perspective. It's just to cast perspective on the kind of costs that a school incurs. So we are looking at monthly cost of food, of wood, that is cooking wood, electricity, and food against the number of students, or in relating to the number of students. And here, the first thing, of course, obviously we can note is that as the capacity of the school enlarges in terms of the number of students, so do costs of food, wood, and electricity. And the other thing that we can note in this graphical representation is that, for example, if we look at, for example, food, is that schools can spend anywhere, and we are talking about food, we are referring to our analysis here was based on vegetables, because most schools do farm or produce some vegetables in the schools that are used in the kitchen, such as cabbages, spinach, and then you also have kales or onions. This can be used in the kitchen or sold to the nearby community. So schools can spend between, let's say, 10,000 shillings to around Kenyan shillings to around as high as that's around 90,000 a month, depending on the size of the school. And the largest cost here, we see that it's electricity. And just to remind us that it's just casting perspectives, that this can be different in school per school, that school can spend anywhere between 10,000 or let's say 15,000 Kenyan shillings to as high as 190,000, somewhere thereabout, on electricity cost per month. So now let's look at the circular economy, which of course Dr. Oli did mention in the beginning, that when we introduce renewable energy or green energy, that we have the opportunity of creating a circular economy where the school can benefit from using gas for cooking released from the biogas. And then of course, the biogas does produce some fertilizer, which in many cases and in many countries has been proven to be effective because it comes out as a liquid, in liquid form, and it penetrates better than the solid waste that comes from the animals. And then the school can grow its own food and then sell some of the food. Even you can sell some of the fertilizer. And then, of course, we have solar energy. We can replace this cost with, say 15 units of home biogas, and then solar. We give a quote of 27 kilowatt, and then of course the technology, the biogas does come with the biofertilizer and biogas cooking. So if we look at this case, then the school having taken a loan can paying 130,298 per month can immediately save 17,202. That is the difference with all the total of the current costs with monthly payment. And then, of course, in the third year, as the school is continuing to pay, the school will save roughly 620,000. And then now, from the fourth year, the school will continue to save onwards. That is, the current operational cost will become money that goes into the pocket. That can even go up to the 10th year. 12 million can be up to 12 million in the 10th year. So we see that there is a benefit here in terms of introducing green energy. Thank you very much for listening, and thank you for your patience. So at this time, I hope Sharon is ready to share.
Yes, so for the pilot projects, we had 3 goals. For this, we wanted to design a protocol together with the school staff for the experiment at the farm. Now, the idea here is so that we could increase the productivity of the school. We would also want to establish sustainable farming practices, and as it was mentioned earlier, to have the students participate, have experiential learning through project-based learning. The second goal was to conduct a training with the teachers and the managerial staff for the design thinking process and the ESDs. This one was to enhance collaborative learning and to enhance 21st century skills, also to impart the knowledge to the teachers so that they can be able to train the students even while in class. Because like it was mentioned, we do not want to come up with a new curriculum. Rather, we want to help and impart this knowledge to the teachers so that they can inculcate it in their ongoing classes. The third goal that we had was to formulate a space, what we call an innovation hub, which brings all these technologies together and the training, the knowledge from the training. Irit had mentioned that we had the design thinking process. This was for the training with the teachers and also the ESD. The program is to be 2 months long. We would have 3 visits in those 2 months where we would have the training sessions and setting up of the farm. And also we would have subsequent school visits thereafter just to see how the process is going and continue offering facilitation where need be. Here we are having one of the sessions where we were training. This is actually just where we were training the teachers and just working with them through the process of design thinking. The next step was where the teachers just sat in their own groups, small groups, and discussed, broke down those steps of design thinking. And, you know, like here they were talking about the why they go through, the local resources that they have, because we want to say up, but then there is a bottle of soda, and then there is also a rock next to you. Someone might stay stuck in that place and use a sharp side to cut the ropes. And that is the mentality and the mindset that we want to adopt, that in every community, including a school community, that it is possible to use those same resources, the local resources, to solve the local solutions. Here also you are having the teachers now present, because we want to impact them with change the teachers to become the student, so to give students the process. In terms of setting up the experiment, so we have a school right now. We also have a school for the deaf in Nabu. We wanted to have it go and collect the bioslurry from the biogas unit and take it off to the field. The next step was designing what we call the protocol. These are the farm booklets that the student and the teaching staff understand the needs and the ongoing activities within the school. So we first ask if the school uses fertilizer, when is their season, what kind of crops do they grow, what kind of crops do they want to grow and test out in this experiment. And then secondly, break down based on their needs and what they want to work on. That is what we would classify. How we would classify the books. Another 4. Double by colors, so that the students would be able to first of all identify, because we want to make it easy and interactive for the kids and fun to work with. Also, on the second picture to your right, we are seeing small blocks. That is how we separate the farm, and they have a mental picture. Even the students would have a mental picture based on the book, what is on the book, on what would be on the farm. So example, we have the green, blue, and red. And in that order, when the students would go to the farm, sorry, just a second. Yes. So the students know where to grow, and even in terms of marking the plots, because that is what we go to next. So we have the farm team, we sit down, we design the protocol together, we come up with a structure for the booklets. This is suited to the needs of the school and the kind of experiment that we will conduct. The next step is having a small ceremony of handing over the booklets to the students. Again, our approach is community led development. We want that the community will own the process, not in the knowledge, and continue farming and growing. We would also break down, just walk with the students through each step what they need to do. And in this booklet also, you'd have sections where they would collect the data. So everything is in one booklet, also for easy understanding and making reference to. Because what like we said earlier, is we want the students to be able to set up their own projects, and we want them to learn and be able to use this knowledge elsewhere. Next is we went to setting up the farm. Now we have an idea of how the blocks look like, what should go where. And here I was working with students from Cambodia. And like you can see, everyone was very hands-on in helping out. And it was very interesting because they're a special bunch of children and we were able to work together. And I think that is the best part of technology and community inclusion, that it is still possible to achieve those results. The next picture, maybe it's over here, but we have, after marking the plots, we put we used the red carrier bags. Now that is what we use in Kenya, because we thought paint would have been expensive for this particular school. And to use the local resources within the school, we came up with using the carrier bags because it had the colors that we needed. That's green, red, and blue. Then the planting process began. This one was very exciting. This is in Daraja. And as you can see, I like the girl who is planting because she looks happy. And it shows the hands-on learning, the experiential learning. One thing that I appreciated was, among the things that we are pushing for is sustainable farming. And with this, we wanted to be very precise in everything that we are doing. And it came down to even measuring the amount of fertilizer that they would use depending on the different treatments that you are applying. And so for Daraja, they needed beakers, yeah? So what they did was, because it took longer for them to acquire the beakers with the marks, they cut their own based on the measurements and used their own beakers that from the local resources that they had. This is used tins because one tin, you'd say if it goes for 200 grams, that's 200 ml, and they were able to use this. And I think that is the core of what we're doing, that even without financial resources, we still have the answers right within us. The next process is data collection. This one was happening throughout the project. So in planting, they wrote down the data that they planted. When they applied the fertilizer, they wrote down when they applied the fertilizer, how many times they applied. And then even in harvesting, they also collected data, noting down the different things that they saw. And here we allowed the students to just note down what they saw and for us to be able to compile the data and analyze the data and work with them through that process as well. We walked with them through, here we were using a vernier caliper to measure the diameter of the onions, because onions is one of the crops that they were growing. And it was quite an interesting experience. Most of all is because the goals of our project was achieved. That was to train and impart knowledge and to foster interpersonal and 21st century skills, which is for leaders, for children, is to come up with, to have leaders who can manage their own projects. And throughout this entire process, it is the students who are leading. They were at the front line of going to the farm, doing the harvest, asking when they should do what. And these are the kind of leaders that we are molding, not just in school, but even for outside. So right now, outside school, now we are going to have a short video that just summarizes the whole experience for both the students and the school team. Thank you.
the activities that we have already participated is like clearing the land, planting, and some of the crops we have harvested, and even the application of treatment we have also done it, weeding of the plants and transferring the plants from the nurseries to their chambers where they are supposed to be. I'll use these skills like I can be able to manage my own project because I have the skills like analyzing, observing, recording, and collection of data. I can also use the skills to be a good farmer because I have the knowledge on how to take care of a plant from its seedling up to the time that it will be a mature crop. I will also use these skills to help people at home by teaching them on how to do better agriculture practices, and this will lead to increased food production.
Experience that I already have gained from the project is that working with ecosystem is better because we can reduce the pollution of our soil in the farm, and then we can use what we have to produce more food for the school. At earlier past, we used to do everything randomly, that we did not manage anything. We just were doing maybe this for this season and the other one for the other season. But for now, we have learned a lot because we now have known how to maintain our crops, we know how to control the pests. A lot because we have went to another level that we were not there in the past.
My name is Nancy. I teach at Daraja Academy. I teach biology and agriculture, and I was coordinating the Keilot project with the Form 1 and the Form 3 girls, and it's been such a good experience. First of all, to the school is that the school has gotten a way of producing food organically without using, some of the portions that we had that were treated with bioslurry, that was organic production, which the school got from the bioslurry from the biogas plant. And then secondly is that the students learned a number of skills like observations, data collection, teamwork, and that has been such a good process. I have learned new technology, like I didn't know previously about bioslurry and how the biogas produces fertilizer that can actually be used in the farm. So again, organic farming using not necessarily the bulky organic manure, but also bioslurry, which is in liquid form. I have learned that. I also have learned experiential learning, that we can actually use the farm as an experiment with girls, that they can learn experiment process, and that has been great. Yeah, I plan to do more practicals in the farm experientially with other classes, because I saw girls get very excited, having hands-on the crops, doing weeding and every practice they have done to take care of the crops, and them being involved in the process of producing, and it has been fun, very fun, because again, it wasn't just any other project, but a project that was really exciting. And so in future I would want to use that to maybe other classes, that even as I teach, I do it practically in the farm.
Wow, thank you so much, Sharon, for that session. And what a good way to summarize and conclude our presentations today. And at this juncture, I'd like to open the floor for questions, for comments.
So maybe we can refer to them, and if the person is still here with us, he can raise the issue, and if not, we can still address it.
Yeah, one of the questions raised by our visitors, I'm here to confirm who she is, but the question was how can one visit a school where we have implemented the project? And I would like to to just say that I would like to welcome Omri to share to answer this question. So Omri.
Sorry. Stephen, I can't find the actual question. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, the question is, how can one visit a school where we have implemented the program?
Well, we have a few schools that are now in the process. Two of them, I think, you have already explained about. One is in Nanyuki, and one is in Nanyuki, and one is in. I'm not on mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. We can hear you.
I was told I was on mute. One is in Nanyuki and one is in Gitanguri, but these are the pilot projects. We are now, between now and the end of this month, we will be able to provide more schools that we're starting the program with, so you can escort us. But our main offices are in Westlands, in Nairobi, and in these offices you can get more information about the program, about the specific schools, about the technologies that we are offering for the schools, and about the financing options that we provide. So, Karibu, you're all welcome to the office. We are all here, unless we are out for meetings, but you can. I'll send my email also on the. We shall all share our emails on the chat, so you can communicate with us whenever you wish to come and discuss.
Great. And Omri has a follow-up question to that. There's also a question from Justice Bayer, and he's asking about the suitability of the home biogas for large scale, for example, a boarding school.
We've done some adjustments to the biogas to be able to fit larger numbers of students. We can definitely connect even 20 to 30 units. We do it with specific valves that are connected to commercial burners that we provide. So there's no problem. When we go to the school and we do the assessment, we actually find out what exactly you are cooking. Sometimes you that you need systems.
Sorry, there's a break in the connection. Omri, we can't still hear you. We can't hear you. So I would like to go to the next question, and Omri can, once the connection is good, he can definitely pick up. Anyone else with a question? I hope I've captured all your questions. We only had to.
I think there was another question from Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
I think he asked about. Wait, I'm trying to find it. If you can shed light on partnership. Can explain?
Okay. So I think Omri, if you're back, you can also just pick up that question about partnerships. Okay, so Omri is still fixing the connection. So Anyone else in the floor who would like to, or in the meeting who would like to ask a question or a comment? So then I'm going to ask you a question. If you were to pick anything out of this webinar, what would it be?
Let me just answer the two questions that I don't know, there's a problem with the internet. It's still a problem.
Okay.
Might come to join you also in your computer as other people did. About the suitability of the biogas, we are able to match any consumption that you currently have with the biogas systems. We have this special ability. About the partnerships, we are very open to partnerships. And again, I invite you to come and visit us in the office or have a call with us, Zoom call with us. This is something that we've been doing for the last few months already with various institutions. But we are welcoming anybody else that would like to join this initiative that we are promoting together with the team.
Thank you very much, Omri. Now we have come to the end of our webinar. Definitely share a summary on your emails. Thank you so much for participating. I mean, from the very beginning, when we sent out invites to you, you did respond. Huh? Sorry, there is somebody who has raised their hand, I'm told. Hesbon?
Yeah, Hesbon.
Ah, okay. Welcome.
Thank you, Stephen, for giving me this opportunity. I also just want to echo maybe just a few points into this, maybe eco-green, sustainable, and the production at a little bit of the schools. And you've actually talked about the ESD, but it covers the secondary schools, actually maybe the high school. And earlier you talked about the CBC, which is also handling the primary aspect of the education is actually in our country. So maybe
we can't hear you, Hesbon. Your connection is unstable.
Programs, especially Ajambili Girls Academy, working on the farms, which is actually maybe falling under the CBC. So how can we be able to maybe to cooperate also maybe the primary education system, which is actually now handling the CBC system in their production to the agriculture, maybe at home and also in the school aspect. If you can be able to shed light on that, will actually help me maybe to know if this secondary school is actually and maybe the primary school, then how we can be able to involve them. The second question maybe to me is about the community involvement. Much has not actually been talked about the community participation, the community awareness, the community advocacy when it comes to the energy consumptions, because actually the community is the one destroying, especially in some areas. Deforestation has come as a result due to maybe the lack of the available material that can be able to be used locally by most of the communities. So you find them destroying maybe the trees that they have around for the purpose of energy. So how can we be able also to involve the community so that we may be able to save our trees or the ecosystem that we are actually having? So I've not seen much of the communities actually being tackled, and actually maybe how to bring the community. And maybe the other aspect, we have seen maybe the Darajambili students are actually talking about the production of agriculture. And if we can be able to involve also the community into this, actually we may be able to have the community that have the energy, they have the food, and they have all that they may be able to need out of that. The other aspects we have seen involving the schools, and maybe partly because I've had the Darajan biology and the agriculture teacher, and maybe it's only a section of the pupils who are doing the agriculture in that school who are participating in this. So how can maybe the other pupils who are actually not the agriculture students maybe also be able to impart with this knowledge, so that when they go back to the home, because I heard one of the panelists mention school is actually for every future generation, or for any community that has to copy or have the resources. They actually depend with the school for any movement or for maybe for their production. So if we can be able to involve that one, it will be very, very good for maybe for us. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Hesbon. I would like to ask Jess to summarize the answers. And the first one is the connection between this program, the Kenyan curriculum and farming. And then the other question is on how the community, how we can better involve the community, for example, in tree growing. And finally, involving other students apart from the agriculture students in this project. Welcome, Jess.
Thank you, Hesbon, for your very important questions and varied. And first of all, I want to address what you mentioned about the suitability of the program to the different range of ages for the school. And I will say the following: at the end of the day, as part of the program is the educational curriculum, it's the actual content that is supporting the process of the experimentation at the farm, the experiment, the food production, the usage of the technology. And it's a content which is flexible. For example, in one of the prototype schools, the students which started to activate this process internally were from high school. And at the other school, they were from primary school. And the decision to start with a certain age was decided by the school and by this organizational community structure that is the decision-making body in terms also of how to integrate in the most reliable, sustainable manner the program into the school. And that means that we are starting as a proof of concept to choose one classroom that will initiate the process in the farm with experimentation with the technology, and then a classroom that will be the first pioneers in the hub for innovation of grid solutions, and later on how to scale it up in a very safe manner for the program of the school, and which I think it's something important to consider. So the project-based learning or education for sustainable development is an approach with a content that could be suitable and adaptable for all kind of ages or range of classrooms. And that will take me to say and to talk about the holistic approach, how the local community, when I first mentioned the local community, which is the educational community, in charge of making the decisions and facilitating the process on how to insert the model, how to promote it, train the students, and first of all, continue the training to the teachers and the educational staff in order to solidify this process and program in the school. And where eventually, and this is where it comes up to the community, we will design an open system where these schools become a demo farm, a demo model for how community cohesion can lead to actual change and incorporate different components from the world of infrastructure, from the world of society, from the world of economics, from the world of awareness, and be actually these advocates in their own communities. And that will be done through visits of local organizations, connection to different units of the community around and among the schools, as, for example, farmers' cooperatives, and also other CSOs and other NGOs or other group community organizations. So the idea is also to scale up by opening up the system and not just leaving it internally in the school. Beside the fact that it was mentioned that these students are advocates in their own communities, But this structure is also one of the, let's say, the pillars or the points of view that we bring up into the discussion and facilitation with the school. But first of all, we need to establish a solid model at the school community in the first place. And related to what you mentioned, and I hope I'm answering all your questions about this comprehensive, and I mentioned the water, energy, food nexus, because at the end of the day, everything is interrelated. In order to grow food, I need to have available water for irrigation. I need to also know how to optimize my existing resources, because there are also resources that are at the availability of the communities beyond the bioslurry, the clean gas that a specific technology, or in this case, the home biogas, can provide. And the idea is that exactly through education, through awareness, through acquiring understanding, knowledge, perspectives, and values, we are shaping a whole path and developing a pathway of an approach to understand climate change effects, and also to understand how the communities can be active change makers in the design of these pathways for better management, for optimization, and for taking care of their environment. And through the open system, we wish also to influence other sectors of the community. So I hope that I answer your questions, Hesbon.
Okay, thank you very much, Jess. And for Hesbon, you also raised that you would like us to participate. You asked if we can participate in a school that you are connected to. We are definitely will be happy to do that. Please reach out to us, and for all of us, there's a contact of Keilot in the chats. Thank you so very much for being patient and for attending this webinar. Of course, this will be continuing in the coming, in this year, we'll be having another webinar or several webinars that will also highlight issues to do with sustainability, climate change, green energy, and finally about how we can all be part of this great move in the education sector, and also in the energy and sustainability. Thank you very much, and have a nice day, lovely day ahead, and stay safe.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you all.